Welcome to the Latin Wealth Podcast, a podcast dedicated to educating the Latino community about entrepreneurship, investing, and business.
Yo, what's going on, Latin Wealth family? Welcome to another episode to Wealth Wednesday. Super excited about today's episode. You guys already know this show is all about bringing you guys the newest news, the newest topics that are going on in the world and how they relate to our community. And what's dope is this is all hosted by two Puerto Rican males. So yeah, love it. For the newcomers, thank you for showing up. We appreciate you. If you're new here, we drop a new episode every single Wednesday, and we would love for you to share this episode with one other person out there that needs to hear this information. And look, we got some great topics that we're going to dive into today. We're talking about NFTs, we're talking about AI, and we're talking reggaeton as well. But before we get into that, my brother Jeremiah, how you feeling today, bro?
Feeling great, man. Great topics, great conversation, two great gentlemen, right? As you said, Boricua pa que sepa. Here, we're making it happen, and let's get to it, man. I'm happy. Let's get it.
Well, let's do it. So we're going to just jump right into it today. Usually we have some like icebreaker topics, but we jumping right in today. And if you guys don't know, if you guys been living under a rock, NFTs at one point were huge, right? I'd say towards the end of 2020, 2021, 2022, NFTs, if you didn't have an NFT, you wasn't doing it, right? You weren't investing right? Reports just came out that said that most NFTs are actually totally worthless now. If you guys remember back in that time, a lot of NFTs were selling for an absurd amount of money. I know like some of the crypto punks and some of the other projects were selling up to like $2 million, even more, right? And now these NFTs, these non-fungible tokens, these collectibles, research has came out and said that 95% of the once hyped crypto assets have hit rock bottom, right? And they analyzed over 73,000 NFT collections, and they found that over just about 70,000 of them have a market cap of 0 ETH, which was the cryptocurrency that they were mainly used to buy different NFT assets, right? People weren't really using Bitcoin; they were using ETH, right? Almost 70,000 of them have hit 0. What are your thoughts about this, man? This is crazy, but actually not surprising.
Yeah, it ain't too surprising. I mean, let's be honest. The hype was going on. You had a lot of very famous people that were into it. I think that for the most part, people got into it and thought that it was a way to expand or own themselves and things inside of Web3, which is the upcoming internet, right? So you had Internet 1, then you had Web 2, which we're currently in. Web 3 is the metaverse, right? That's coming and everything. And so they just saw it as a way to get into that and then make some money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel that the actual foundational meaning and utilization of NFTs is actually great because NFTs are to smart contracts, right? Free the man, but Tory Lanez, we're getting into this. Tory Lanez was one of the first people that actually did music, if not the first person that did his album via an NFT, and totally just like ripped apart the record industry, right? The music industry. Now, if he's in jail because of that, that's a whole other thing. But I'll just say that he helped a lot of people make money off of his music. He made a lot of money off that album, and so I think when they got away from that and it started just being a fad or this kind of trend that you could just take a picture of yourself and then animate yourself or something and sell it, and then you can make a couple of $1,000s and everything. I think when they got into that, that's when we actually started to have issues. Now, the question, Chris, I got a question for you. Do you think that what's happening and the reason why that 95% of them are worthless, do you think that was intentional?
Why do you say that?
like, do you think maybe there's banks or there's some whales they call them, or some very large conglomerate hedge fund and group type people that would actually utilize the smart contracts and utilize that technology, buy up everything, and then the market goes back up with these huge institutional investors
Mm.
owning the majority of the stuff.
That's a great question because that was actually one of the questions that I was gonna ask. Like, do you believe NFTs were gonna recover?
Yeah,
So, I
they
think the
could.
ones like you said that have the actual a utility case for them and that have, I guess, for lack of a better words, like benefits that come with them.
Yeah,
For example, I think it was CryptoPunks that if you own one of these, that you were in like a Discord or you were in a room with other celebrities that you can network with, which
yeah,
can probably was very valuable for people. I do think it's very interesting that again, 95% of the NFTs are at almost at zero. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. It's interesting. I would think it's a great opportunity to buy if it's something that you're invested in long term. But it's very speculative because there's so many of them out there. Like, which ones do you pick from, right? So it's tough. I think when it comes to the NFT situation, my first impression is you gotta actually like the art, I would say.
right,
And if
right.
there's some type of benefits from owning the art, then it's worth buying into. But if you're just buying a cat or a dog just because it's hype or just because somebody posted it on Twitter, that's probably not going to be a smart move. But yeah, I don't know. I was gonna ask you that. I'm interested. Like, do you think it's gonna bounce back? Do you think people are
I
gonna buy
mean,
into it?
I think it's if we could liken the trend to Beanie Babies. And
Mm-hmm.
for those of you that aren't old enough, these are little beanbag
Mm-hmm.
teddy bears and different types of animals or whatever, right? But that trend comes and goes, right? Pokemon trading cards, the stuff comes and goes. It's a trend. A game will come out and then it goes back up and the value goes back up. It goes back down. But they always seem to have some inherent value. I think for something to go as high as it did and then be totally worthless, 95% of that industry or that vertical be worthless, that's something to investigate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about it. You've never seen anything like that on
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
scale, right? That was so highly invested into, right? And has so many actual utilization cases because it's not just about owning the art, as you said. Um, if we go back, you and I went probably our favorite, or one of our favorites, obviously, Nipsey Hussle, rest in peace, but he was doing this type of stuff with technology with his albums. Walk
Mm-hmm.
into the store, right? And it's basically an NFT because on your phone you could scan a shirt and it would link to uh freaking concert tickets later on, 2 months,
Mm-hmm.
2 months down the road or a year down the road, if you had that shirt, right? He was basically having physical NFTs because you could then link
Mm-hmm.
it to a contract and say, hey, that shirt, scan that tag, and then you're gonna get 2 free tickets.
Yeah.
So there was great utilization on the stuff. And for it to be so highly linked, I think, to like the music industry and basically taking away the control, the overall systematic control that these major record companies, record labels have over the, and then for it to just fall like that, it seems to me that there's some type of, I'm just being honest. It seems like
Mm-hmm.
that it was orchestrated because you don't have so much money into something and so hyped, right?
Yeah.
And then it just totally loses value. That's kind of strange. I think it'll come back, but I think when it does come back, the market won't be saturated with retail investors. I think it'll just be like these major institutions. I even think it'll be record labels that own
Mm-hmm.
like major NFTs.
Yeah, it's no, you're 100% right. And I mean, now that you're saying that, I'm thinking like the record labels, they seen what Tory Lanez did, and they're like,
Yes.
yo, we ain't ready for this to happen right now because the way he just ripped everything apart and just like bypassed everybody to go direct to consumer was pretty incredible. Um, yeah, I mean it's conspiracy theories. That's
You
for
know how I mean? You just got to think about it. Like, imagine someone coming up with something. He was the first person to do it, and he did it very successfully. Someone that decided to utilize this
Mhm.
technology, it bypassed streaming,
Yep.
right? He didn't need Spotify. He didn't need YouTube. He didn't need like it. Literally, he bypassed all of these entities, all of the record labels. Right? He made the music himself and put it out right, and so he bypassed everything. That's very dangerous to powers that be and the way they have gatekeepers and the way everything is structured, right? So I don't know. It could be conspiracy theory, but I think it's pretty. I don't know. Seems pretty obvious to me. I've never seen something that have so much money into it and then be worthless after a year and a half. It's just
100%. I
very strange.
definitely believe in the use of NFTs. I don't think they're completely dead. Right now, they may look like they're dead, but I think they're definitely going to come back. As far as like investing in past projects that are at their lowest right now, I mean, to me, that's remain to be seen.
Yeah,
You gotta something that you speak about a lot, and I think when it comes to NFTs, you gotta do it 10 times over. Is you have to look into what the owners and what the founders are
yeah,
doing, right? You always speak about doing your tokenomics, looking into the white
yep,
paper and whatnot,
yep,
seeing what because look, even I think his Jake Paul, he had
yeah,
a situation where he had an NFT, he didn't follow through with it. He ended up scanning people millions of dollars and whatnot. He has publicly came out allegedly and said that he was going to continue with the project, but he hasn't.
right.
So my point of saying that is you have to really do the research on the founders and the owners and the company to see if there's something that they're even going to continue with, to see what their, um, what their thought process is for the next 5, 10 years, because you can have somebody like a Logan Paul say like, "Yo, this is going to be the next thing in 5 years. I'm working on it," and he not even do anything with it.
I think that I mean, and not to tie the two together, obviously, but this whole flip the Dow situation is going to hurt that, right? Because that's what the Dow is, and Dow and NFT are like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of cousins, right? You use the NFT, you can basically use the smart contracts in a DAO to create an organization of stuff of
Mm-hmm.
various different levels. So that's going to be interesting. I see a lot of misuse of the technology. You see
Mm-hmm.
very few proper usages of the actual technology. I think that there's going to be. I was listening to Akon the other day. I think there's going to be some cities that are being built that are in Africa and stuff like that that are going to utilize the
Mm-hmm.
technology in the correct manner,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll see how far it could go. And I think it can, I mean, it's limitless where it can go, but I think we'll start to see people using it properly. And then when they use it properly, I think that'll bring back the actual usage bases.
Mm-hmm.
See some NFTs that are actually linked to something,
Yeah.
humanitarian based efforts. Maybe you buy this NFT and it gives, uh,
Mm-hmm.
300 gallons of water to people in the sub-Saharan Africa, like things like that. So that's what to me what they should be used for. I'm not an over super tree hugger or anything, but I just believe that that's what the technology for the betterment of humankind actually should be used for.
Yeah.
So we see
Yeah.
that, then it'll be good.
100%. And I think, to be honest, in my opinion, times like this, these bubbles, the 95% drop, I think
Yeah,
it's needed to
agreed.
understand what to do right, what to not do in the future, what to avoid, what to look after. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people lost a lot of money during this time.
Yeah,
So I
it's a
would assume,
correction. It's a
yeah,
correction cycle,
correction.
right? It's a drawback, right? That correction is needed in every single industry.
Yeah. And isn't it crazy? Like, shout out, rest in peace, Nip. It would be crazy to see him alive today doing business because he was one of the early adopters of using an NFT. You can go into the store, like you said, you can get the tickets. I remember you go into the store, you scan a piece of product,
Yep.
and there's content
Yes.
specifically with that. It
Yeah.
would just be amazing to see him like operate today,
I mean, his partner David Gross said he was talking, and this is all linked to the NFTs and things like that, because Nip was literally the very early adopter to this. He was very early adopter, almost of NFT in the music space, uh, with the way he did his album, which was the $1,000 album, right? Those
Yep.
things that he was
Proud to
doing, these
play,
were
proud to
very
pay.
early, right, adaptations. He was way ahead of his time. His partner David Gross though has said that, you know, so Nip basically, when you investigate it, he was worth about $240 million. That's what
Mm.
you read the book. They showed all his basically what he had in his assets. And then David Gross said the way his adaptation, how he learned, and the way that he was like vertically integrated into his businesses, he would have been a billionaire. Like,
Mm.
so Nip would have probably been a one or two, right? Like in that range now. And that's just in a few years because he was an early adapter and an early investor into so many things. I think
Mm-hmm.
he had invested in Face Clan too.
Mm-hmm.
His kids like to play the game or whatever. So there's all these early things. So man, it would have been super interesting. I think he'd be killing it.
Yeah, crazy. So let me ask you this, man.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It was NFTs that got really hyped up first, and then it was Web3, or was it vice versa?
No, so so it was Web3. There was right. So the metaverse was basically presented
Mm-hmm.
Web3 slash the metaverse, right? Because Facebook is the people that basically said we're going to create this metaverse, Meta, right?
Mm-hmm.
They kind of came up with that idea, laid it out, and what it would be, and what does that actually mean. It goes super deep. Won't even go that deep, but they laid that out. And then NFTs were kind of
Yep.
right because they started off with just clips of like Michael Jordan
Yep.
in '88, right? And people own that clip, that specific clip. Right?
Yep.
And then it progressed to like holographic car, right? And then it was progressing. So it started off with Web3 first, and then it just kind of exploded once people figured out what they could do with it.
I completely remember those cards were like,
Yeah.
you selling, you know what I'm saying, a highlight.
Yeah,
Which
that's it. It was like 18 seconds,
I
and you
remember
had
that.
to, and it was like $300,000 for the 18-second
I
clip or
remember
something
that.
like. I was like,
Yeah.
okay,
So the reason why I ask you that is because, man, first of all, the past 3 years it seemed like it's been all a blur, right? So
blur.
you got the metaverse that was hyped up, then you got NFTs, and the
Yeah,
next thing that was hyped up, we're kind of in the stage now, is artificial intelligence. Now
for
we all
sure.
know artificial intelligence has been around for a while now, but the
Theory.
question is every time something becomes hype, I always got to beg to ask, like, are we going to be in another bubble? Are we going to see something similar with NFTs, with all these AI projects hitting
Yeah,
zero, or like, because it just seems like it's really easy for someone to make a AI, software platform, the stocks that are related to it. Is it going to be the
yeah.
same thing as the NFT situation? Um,
No, because AI is basically essential to use in the development of mankind. Basically, this was the next progressional step, right? So as you're going up the staircase of human right elevation, or you're trying to elevate. I'm ascending. The ascendance of humankind is just kind of just like the next step. It's essential. Um, there was going to come a time, just like with Henry Ford in the early 20th century, when he created he had the actual factory workers, right, and the production line. There was going to come a time when that's all robots, right? So that's this time. It's needed. AI is needed to be more productive, to make us more productive. If it's used properly, it's going to be great. Obviously, a lot of people see Skynet with Terminator. It could be used the wrong way, right? But it's essential. So I can't see where AI would go to zero.
right.
The problem with NFTs is that they're not really essential, right? Like you really don't need them, right? And so when something's not essential, it's easy for it to lose its market value
Correct.
extremely quick. AI is very difficult. It's so integrated now, and it's been integrated. Like you have ChatGPT, which has Elon owns a piece of it.
Yeah.
I think still right. He still owns a piece of it. You got Microsoft, which owns the major stake, and then ChatGPT is on Apple. So you
Mhm.
have the like three crazy richest people, richest companies all working together with one project. It's
Yeah.
impossible for that project not to be around, right?
100%.
So that's what I think, and that's how I see it. It's a completely different lane, kind of.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I agree I really do agree with you. I even think, I don't think we're in a bubble anytime soon because we're still so early. Like we talk
yeah,
about it, we know about it because we use it,
right,
and we're always doing our due diligence, but there's still a large population of people that don't even understand or have never used Chat GPT, right?
for
And
sure.
like you said, it has an actual use case. Like these are things that we are using every single day in our workflow, in our creative flow, whatever the case is. Now, but what I do see is there's so many different companies and people making AI products for every little damn thing. I do see a Chat GPT having more features where they just kind of gobble up what they're doing. And instead of using um platform X, Y, and Z, I'm just going to use Chat GPT because it does 10 other things. Does that make
Right.
sense? It's
Right.
kind of,
Yeah.
I always use the Apple effect because I got an Apple. I got to just throw it out there. You know what I'm saying? But if you remember early on in the App Store, like everybody had a flashlight app, everybody had an alarm
Yeah.
clock app. But
Yeah.
eventually, Apple developed their own flashlight, their own
Right.
alarm clock, or some of these
Sure.
companies, they bought those companies. So they're part of the Apple product. And what I'm saying is, I think there's in the future, there's my opinion, there's going to be couple different AI platforms that we'll go to use, right? I think Chat GPT, they have the ability to something crazy where they can search videos or something
Yeah.
new that just came out. Something
Yeah.
with audio and video they can search.
Audio and video.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what do you think about that?
I mean, for the most part, ChatGPT, Google Bard, because so Bard was first to the platform to have, so kind of like not generative AI because that was changed, but they could basically search video and help in the creation of video, right? So I like when you're first to market with something, that's going to be that leads you to basically stay in that space. Even if someone comes out after you, it's just considered a copycat, right? Um, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, right? People love Pepsi or whatever, but it'll never erase Coca-Cola as the first one. And so I feel like ChatGPT, this is something that's always going to be, it'll always be around. If it can get integrated or basically bought, because remember, Microsoft used to have a phone. I
Mhm.
don't know if you remember that, but Microsoft used to actually have a phone that they had.
Right.
Most people don't remember. But if Microsoft wants to come back out with a phone, which they could, got why not, right? Then what if they say we have exclusive rights on ChatGPT?
Mhm.
Now Apple has to come up with their own, which they can, I guess. They could
Yeah.
study, or Apple has to partner up with Google.
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult because Google
Yeah.
has their own phone. So you're
Yeah.
going to have to see, in my opinion, you're going to see three versions, right? You'll see ChatGPT, which is basically owned by Microsoft. Uh, you'll have Apple, which will have to come up with their own, which they kind of already did because they had Siri. Maybe they should be further in the research and development on that.
100%.
Siri was AI, right? And then you'll have Google, because Google has the Pixel. They have their own phone.
Mhm.
They have YouTube. They have their own, right? Alphabet is doing their own thing. So
Yeah.
that's the thought.
No, I like that thought because, to compete, if that does happen, Siri gonna need an upgrade because I don't, I can't tell you the last time I used Siri for any damn thing.
Now, if you could talk to Siri and Siri could write your report, and based upon your living, based
Come
upon
on now.
Siri stays in your pocket, right?
Come on now.
So imagine we have all of the neural links and we have all this stuff that is dealing with biomed. Apple's trying to get into biomed as well. So if you start being able to link that biomed, a watch you wear that maybe has an interface on the back of the watch to tell you to touch your skin, and it could tell you your sugar level, your cholesterol, your heart rate, right? And then that feeds into the phone, and Siri can actually integrate with some stuff like that. Now it's a whole totally different level of stuff, right? Apple, y'all should pay me for that idea.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
by the way, like if something like that happens, then you're looking at something different.
Yeah.
Siri then has a purpose because
Yeah.
what Siri could tell you, you're in your earbuds, right, and you're running, you're doing whatever you're doing, and Siri tells you your sugar, right, your sugar rate is extremely low. You should stop now and go get a piece of candy, whatever, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Just different things like that. And I think that as we start to progress, you'll start to see the merging of worlds because the only thing that's outdone tech overall in the long scheme of things is healthcare.
Mm.
So here Apple's getting into that. So that's a whole different thing.
Yeah. I can't imagine if Siri being in my ear talking about you need to get up out the couch and hit the
You
gym.
need to get, she would do that too. But it would be in a voice that would, right? Like, what if it was in ET's voice?
Yeah.
You feel
Yeah.
me? But
Yeah.
and ET was like, "Yo, what you doing, Chris?
Mhm.
Why are you
Mhm.
sitting on the couch right now? You know that you ain't
Or
worked
David
out since this."
Goggins.
Oh my god! Every look, I say chill on that one because that's not for everybody. There should be levels to this, right?
It's
Because
not. It's not.
that might make some people depressed a
Yeah.
little bit. He's a
No.
little bit intense for some people. So yeah.
100%. Speaking about new levels, Dominican superstar rapper El Alfa inks multi-million-dollar deal with Sounds royalties, right? And this was confirmed by his team, right?
Yeah.
The deal was worth over $70 million, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
this company, Sound Royalties, a little bit about them. They were established in 2014, and they basically provide financing for music creators, independent labels, publishers, and distributors, right? And pretty much they offer advances to different companies and music creators anywhere from $5,000 to tens of millions of dollars to help
Okay.
these creators fund their projects and whatnot, right? And one of their big artists that they recently helped in 2018 was actually Lil Wayne with one of his projects. So, Dominican superstar inks a $70 million deal. And before you give your perspective on it, I thought this quote from the article was very interesting. He said that he's actually been speaking with Sound Royalty for years, and the time finally made sense for us to work together. And he said the best advice I ever received from Alex Henichi, he's the owner of Sound Royalty. He's basically telling him to not sell his music, right? To whatever you do, don't sell your music. Don't, what I'm saying, don't give up the royalty stream. Keep your music. And he was able to, because he didn't sell, he's able to leverage his back catalog to
Yep.
invest in his future. So, long story short, he used that leverage of all the past music that he created to leverage a deal of worth $70 million, which is it's insane. It's crazy.
I mean, this is a time where you see multiple different artists. You saw, I believe Justin Bieber sold his catalog, right? Uh, there's so many other artists that sold their whole catalog, right? Sold their
Mhm.
masters and
I think Katy
actual
Perry.
publishing. Katy Perry,
Yeah.
yeah. There's like super big name people.
Mhm.
So I think Justin Timberlake might have sold his as well.
Yeah.
There's people that just sold, right? And so in the age of that, uh, in fact, I think when I'm thinking about it, relatable, right? UC sold their whole, quality control for the Migos, owner of the Migos record label and Lil Baby. They
Mm.
sold their whole record label. So the masters, there's some artists that didn't have the master, they didn't own their master. So whoever bought them owns that. And so in the age of all this, you see somebody giving someone some really sound advice and telling them to hang on to it. Now, one of the biggest things that people have to understand, well, can I leverage my music? Can I do something like El Alfa did? Okay. In perspective, El Alfa was the first Dembo artist to be globally
Global.
listened to,
Yep.
right? Globally. He took Dembo to a global level.
Mhm.
And he hasn't stopped. And he's just been a pioneer, right? He is to Dembo, Daddy Yankee is to reggaeton.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's how that works. So just in comparison, if people think, oh, my music, or could I, you have to understand your significance. His significance to Dembo is like he's the
Yeah.
top artist,
Yeah.
right? And so he kind of warrants that. I do kind of question it. Obviously, it's not mine. It's his $70 million, and way more way, not my opinion. But I do sometimes wonder if instead of getting these advances from these companies and things like that, right? Because there is something that's owed to the company,
100%.
right? In some type of shape or fashion. The money that he was accruing from his shows and the music because he owned his masters and he owned everything. When you're getting that money, why hasn't anyone come and sat down with him and talked about investments? Right? Because he could have put that money into various different things. He stays in Miami. It could have been various different things that he could have put that money into, and he could have funded himself via himself.
Mm.
Maybe he owned real estate, or maybe he collateralized his assets. He had $100 million worth of stock, and he could borrow against. So that's the type of things I think about. I think it's great that he did get the deal. Kudos to him for not selling his music until he could leverage that to do it, because that's kind of what he's doing with this. But I do still wonder, if there was another way for him to do it, because I know those advances come with, there's a lot that they expect from
Yeah.
those
A
advances.
hefty,
Right.
hefty price tag for sure.
Yeah.
It's always interesting to me to see artists sell their catalog.
Yeah.
Usually when you look at these articles and you see the comments, people are always judging them why did you sell for 300 mil and whatnot? I'm like, man, that's 300 mil. You
Yeah.
know, could maybe Justin Bieber have held on a little bit longer, got more in the long run? Probably, but we don't know these people's financial situation. And at the end of the
We don't.
day, I look at that similar to business, right?
Yeah.
I would assume at the for a lot of people, the end goal is to sell their business because that's honestly a liability for you to carry until you get rid of it.
I'll take that.
You
I
know what
can
I'm
respect
saying?
that. I'm,
Because
you know
as
me.
long as you have the business, that business can
Yeah,
go to zero. But if you
that's
get
true.
rid of it, you then have the asset.
That's true. I think it's for me, it's kind of like, the music industry and owning your music, owning your masters is just like, and I take a word from Nip on this one, right? It's like owning land, right? It'll never be zero. Land will always have some type of value. People's music will always have some type of
Mhm.
value. It just will, because you can always find a million people that listen to that artist. If they're a mainstream artist like that, I mean, I'm talking about 50 Cent is still touring right now off of Get Rich or Die Trying,
Yep.
right? And that's in 2002, 2003. So I'm just saying there's always significance. Even if you're not actively doing it, you still want to recoup that money. Rap will have an oldie station, right? Which they do now. That plays 90s and 2000s rap, and people make money off of that every spin that they get. So for that, I just think, you know, I would hang on to it. But like you said, I don't know these people's financial situation.
Mhm.
I think the music had to be worth something. But maybe they're like, I'll get what I can off of it now, and then whoever buys it, they could get what they get. Case in point,
Yeah.
Michael Jackson basically owned Sony when he passed. Why is that? Because he owned the Beatles catalog,
Mm.
which basically helped to create Sony Records, right? So
Right.
this is just thinking long term. It's not
Leverage.
about the here and now and being
Yeah.
myopic and thinking like, I need this money now. And I know it's about, I think I'm always thinking about generational things, right? I think about 6, 7 generations in the future. I want them to still be rich off of me. And then if they think the same way and we lay it out right, then 7 generations from them will be the same thing. And so I don't know. It's a responsibility. It's a blessing that they've been given all that money. But I think that a lot of times these guys don't have counsel. They just
Mm.
do stuff. That's what I think. That's just my opinion. I think people just do it.
Mm. Yeah, 100%. Love it. That's it for today, y'all. All the articles to what we just spoke about today is going to be linked in this podcast episodes. If you want to check it out or read more about it more in depth, feel free to do that. And as always, for the people that are new, for the people that have been rocking for us with us for a minute now, if you guys can do us a huge favor and share this podcast episode with one other person that needs to hear this, it would mean the world to us. And you guys already know it's the Latin Wealth family. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace.